talk radio, music, and podcasts from the Korean Peninsula. KoreaFM.net.
How old are you? Depending on which country you're in when asked that question, your answer might be different. And while since 1962, South Korean civil law has counted age starting from a person's date of birth, the system commonly referred to as Korean age has persisted. The presence of both systems has sometimes led to confusion, and once again, the question is now being asked whether the Korean age system should go away entirely. I spoke with two professors here in Seoul to learn how Korean age is calculated and some of the arguments being made to keep or remove the system.
I'm In-gyu Oh, professor at Research Institute of Korean Studies at Korea University. And my main area of research is Korean culture. Korean age system is very complicated. There's no set rules very simple enough so that everybody can apply their ages, universally. It originally comes from China, I guess. It is a Confucian age system that counts 10 months of, or roughly 9 months of pregnancy too, in your age. So, but then the Chinese calendar also has this Chinese New Year system. So if you're born, for example, on the eve of a New Year, and the next day you will be already 2 years old. So it's kind of interesting but very complicated aging system. The first westernized aging system, birth-based age system, was introduced in 1910 when Korea was reorganizing entire national populace based on the new westernized or Japanese system of family registry. So the Japanese colonial government introduced the Western age system. So that has been widely used on the paper. On most official documents, they use westernized age system. But in an everyday life, in a family life, in all the social life in Korea, you still use traditional Korean age system.
And with both age systems in place here in South Korea, it's easy to see how confusion might arise.
My name is Michael Hurt, and I'm a professor and photographer living in Korea, here in Seoul. I'm also a visual sociologist, and that means basically that I like to use my photography and the visual geography of Seoul to define social change and what's going on here. The idea of Korean age is basically something that I think surprises a lot of people here, because I think most people in the world, most people on Earth, think of age as beginning, your life as beginning, maybe not biologically speaking in a pure sense, but your life is beginning when you come out of your mother's womb, when you start breathing air into your lungs and not your umbilical cord. But in Korea, your age is counted from conception. I think the confusion is there, especially when non-Koreans and Koreans meet and talk and mingle for the first time. How old are you is an important question in Korea, because, as much as it seems like, kind of like a rude thing to talk about age in the West, in Korea you kind of have to ask people's age to figure things out, to even figure out which parts of grammar and speech to use and how to talk to people. So you kind of have to know who's older and who's younger. So it comes up, most people don't say, how old are you? But they ask, what year were you born? So actually, in that sense, there's not much confusion amongst Koreans, because Koreans ask age in a different way. But if you have to talk like, say, Americans do, Americans actually say, I'm 23, I'm 24. And since Koreans don't really talk as much that way, they talk about their birth year, then there's more confusion when it comes to non-Koreans in a social situation. I think it's really just people who come to Korea who encounter this kind of strange convention that might have problems with it.
The Korea Herald reports that alongside South Korea, most other East Asian countries abolished the Chinese system long ago, with Japan making the change in 1902, followed decades later by China in the late 1970s. And Even North Korea reportedly calculates age based on a person's date of birth. But even with so many examples of countries turning their backs on the previous system, does that mean there's still no room in the ROK for even a cultural representation of Korean age?
Well, I don't think it has been really confusing it because Koreans were well educated from day one in their primary school. They were told to memorize their birth-based age. So they all know that. Also, they were told to learn to count Chinese-based age system too. So they know both ages very well. I don't think confusion is somewhat over-exaggerated. We've never been confused about our Korean age and Western age. But I think the point now is that what's the point of really maintaining two different systems while you can choose one? Well, it's a very bureaucratic and efficient way of thinking. Yes, we could abolish, one of the two because it's so complicated. It looks complicated, but it has never been really a problem to many Koreans really in their lives. So it's again the battle over do you prefer a clean, simple system or do you want to maintain tradition and westernized system at the same time? So like Western New Year, which is January 1st, and the Lunar New Year, which is most likely in February or sometimes in January. So we're not confused about that at all. We celebrate twice a year, New Year's. To me, it's not a bigger problem here. The confusion is more or less the bureaucratic confusion. Sometimes if you go to the bureaucratic offices in Korea, they ask age without clarifying what is Western age or Korean age they ask. So most likely, normal Korean, ordinary Korean people will reply with Korean age numbers, figures. So that may cause problems. But then you can always ask twice. Can you tell me the Western age or your ID age? So it's not a big problem, but I think it's a rather bureaucratic problem.
For KoreaFM.net, I'm Chance Dorland.